These are states that are in trouble financially. They've got these plans and things that he's had to veto things like insurance for illegal immigrants because they have no money, and yet now here's more plans to help the foreigners who are in the state.
Well, let's talk about California because that's one of my favorite topics. They're facing a $68 billion deficit right now, and they want to spend more money on illegal migrants. Newsom is saying, let's have a $25 million legal fund for migrants. Somebody else says, oh no, that's not enough. We need to give lawyers more money. Let's say $60 million. So what you see are these states want to spend, and this has consequences, right? Because believe me, illegal immigrants, people who want to come to this country, hear this in other countries, and they come to the border because they know we're going to have support there. We can get help in California. We're going. And what's more, if you live here, if you're a Californian, that means you get less money yourself, right? That's because there's less money to fund the very programs that help people who are Americans. So it's a double whammy when it comes to this kind of thing.
You know, and plus we've seen, Kara, the money they spent on eliminating homelessness. While homelessness gets worse as they spend that money, and then when you're dealing with $68 billion in debt or $250 billion unfunded liability deficit on pensions, money becomes like monopoly money. It's like water.
Oh, it's the government. It's the government, Tammy. Nothing's real. No, we used to call this when I worked in the Intel community the self-licking ice cream cone. So that homelessness engenders homelessness in that case.
Right.
So California is very much an example of this. And, you know, I think of something my mom used to tell me, bad trees bear bad fruit. Look at Oregon, look at California. Everybody's leaving in droves because of these policies. And I was scanning X the other day, as I tend to do. I'm a little too online. But I'm looking at it, and an old tweet of the incoming Deputy Chief of Staff, Stephen Miller, who is an immigration guru, it was resurfaced from 2023. And he basically said, immigration policy is foundational. Everything else is downstream. And that's exactly right. So when California, when Oregon get immigration wrong, everything else is downstream, and those fights I think they're lost in those states. Unfortunately, California used to be my home state, and to see it ravaged by these terrible, terrible policies, I don't think anything is going to change anytime soon.
Kaylee, we've seen at the federal level and state level that policies matter. It can sound like it's in the weeds or it's boring. But one thing we've seen throughout this entire process, whether it's COVID or immigration policy, it affects us on our street, right? It's in our home. These people who do this, they're affecting our lives directly. It's not some thing that people are arguing about in a Capitol building. Oregon was the first sanctuary state, by the way, and it was like the ultimate incentive. And we see the damage. Why are they sticking with this framework, even with the Trump win? What do you think?
They're just stubborn and stuck in their ways. And I think to Jerry's point, you know, these policies not only mean that Californians in particular have less resources, but it also means that they're probably going to end up paying more in taxes. Because if you have outstanding debt as a state and as a locality, what are your options? You have very few options. You're probably going to raise taxes again, because apparently Gavin Newsom is more interested in virtue signaling and staging his 2028 run than actually governing his state. And what's ironic is that these plans, these sanctuary city plans, are coming from many of the same officials who are currently dismissing Trump's deportation plan as inhumane or too expensive or logistically impossible. No, what's inhumane is forcing citizens of a state and of a city to constantly be on guard in their own communities because they're worried about crime. What's logistically impossible is continuing to spend billions of dollars shipping illegal immigrants all over the place, housing them, providing them with education, with health services, paying their wages while American citizens suffer. It is not a question of logistics. Mass deportations are simply a question of will and choice. And to Kara's point, Tom Homan has the will, and certainly the American people had a choice, and they made that very clear in November.
You know, Griff, we've got a dynamic here where it's open. People can see where the Republicans stand, what their plans are, and that local governments in these blue cities, we saw it with Seattle, with the Black Lives Matter and Antifa, and the taking over of cities. It seemed as though the taxpayers didn't matter, that you couldn't care about what the curriculum would be in school. As parents, you didn't matter. As citizens, you don't matter. There's something larger here that's more important than you. Do you think that after the election that we're going to continue to see Americans waking up to this problem?
Well, yeah, politically, it's could jeopardize Gavin Newsom. It's clear what he's doing, but Gavin, read the room for a second, because it wasn't just Republicans, it's all Americans that don't want the higher taxes. And of course, Newsom doubled down, asking, as Jerry mentioned, $25 million for legal costs, maybe $60 million. But it's interesting, when this document got reported on and the story broke, the Department of Social Services put out a statement from a spokesperson saying, well, this is preliminary, it's under consideration. What's Newsom do? Doubles down and leans in. And it is stunning for me, Tammy, stunning to have him do that, because he actually went to Cuba, California, in the San Diego sector, and saw the border when I was there earlier this year. We have had thousands of migrants coming across there, tens of thousands, Chinese, Syrians, Lebanese. Those are the ones we worry that could pose a national security risk.
Right.
And to think that anybody's going to come around to want to open the border to those people, it defies logic in many ways.
It does, and you got to question, what exactly is the point, right? They lost the election. This is a disaster for the country, but maybe that's the point. We're going to find out. All right, you guys, President-elect Trump is vowing to unleash American energy in his second term. That's fabulous. More on that next.